Are benefic planets always good? And do malefic planets only bring difficulties? Hi everyone, I'm Jerry. Today we are looking at the topic of benefic and malefic planets. In the first part of the video, we will look at what does benefic and malefic mean, and which planets are considered benefic planets, and which planets are considered malefic. In the second part of our video, we will look at the question of, are benefic planets always good? Under what circumstances can they also bring difficulties? And we will also do the same for malefic planets. Are they always bad? Are there circumstances when they can also bring blessings for us? Let's look at benefic planets first. In general, benefic planets are those that bring blessings and prosperity. Where they are placed in our birth chart indicates areas of life where things are easier and smoother. Planets which are considered benefic are Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. Let's look at an example. Jupiter is a benefic planet. Where it is placed on our birth chart can show where in our lives we will receive blessings. If it is in the first house of health, we are less likely to fall sick. If it is in the fifth house of children, it will be easier for us to have children and to have many children. In contrast, malefic planets tend to bring challenges and difficulty. Where they are placed in our birth chart indicates areas of life where things are stressful and uncomfortable. Planets considered malefic are Saturn, the north and south nodes, which are also called the lunar nodes, Mars, and the Sun. If you use Saturn as an example, Saturn is a malefic planet, and where it's placed in our birth chart can show where in our lives we will face challenges and difficulty. So if it is in the first house of health, we are more likely to fall sick and have to adopt a very strict approach to our health habits to stay healthy. If it is in our fifth house of children, we may run into difficulties in having children or have children later than we would like. Now, coming back to the title of the video, are benefic planets always good? And do malefic planets only bring difficulties? The answer is no. It is a bit more complicated than that. Benefic planets are not always good, and malefic planets can bring blessings in our lives. In addition to the inherent benefic or malefic nature of the planets, we also have to consider the sign that the planet is in and the house that the planet rules in our birth chart. Let's first look at what can cause a benefic planet to also bring challenges and troubles. First of all, being in its sign of debilitation, and second, ruling a bad house. Let's first look at the sign of debilitation. Every planet has a sign of debilitation. This is the zodiac sign where the planet has the least strength to properly manifest its good side. More often than not, what seems to be wonderful and amazing, as promised by the planet, ends up being no more than empty promises. Coming back to Jupiter as our example planet, we know Jupiter is a benefic planet and brings blessings and prosperity. And in our earlier example, we said that if Jupiter is in the fifth house of children, then it is easier for us to have children and to have many children. However, if Jupiter is in its sign of debilitation, which is Capricorn, in the fifth house, then Jupiter does not have the strength to manifest its blessings. Instead of an abundance of children, you may end up experiencing challenges with having children, such as difficulty conceiving despite numerous attempts. So that's a planet in a sign of debilitation. Now the second thing to look at is house lordship. Which house does a planet rule? So another way a benefic planet can bring challenges is if it is ruling a bad house. Each planet rules between 1 to 2 houses in our birth chart. If a planet rules a bad house, such as the 6th house, the 8th house, or the 12th house, then the planet will also bring challenges associated with that house. Again, let's look at an example. Let's say you have Capricorn on your ascendant. Sagittarius will then be the sign on the 12th house. And Jupiter, being the planet that rules Sagittarius, therefore also rules the 12th house. We can also say that Jupiter is the 12th lord. The 12th lord can bring isolation and loneliness. It can also represent being away in a foreign place or stuck in a hospital. So if Jupiter is the 12th lord and is placed in your 5th house of children, then you may experience loneliness or a lack of support when it comes to having children or taking care of your children. It is also possible that your children are away from you for long periods of time, such as being in a boarding school or working overseas when they grow up. During such periods, it can feel as though you don't have children at all, and it can be a little lonely. Now that we have covered benefic planets, let's look at malefic planets. What can cause a malefic planet to bring blessings and prosperity? First of all, being in a sign of exaltation. So, just as every planet has its sign of debilitation, where it is weak, they also have a sign of exaltation, where it is strongest and best able to bring forth its nature in a balanced and positive manner, even for malefics. Coming back to Saturn as our example planet for malefics, we mentioned earlier that Saturn in the 5th house of children can cause difficulties in having children or have them later than we like. But if Saturn is in the sign of its exaltation, which is Libra, then children can still come with careful planning and a bit of effort. And if children do end up coming later in life, it is because you don't plan to have it earlier, rather than having to try for many years before finally getting a child. The other thing to consider, again, is the house lordship. So a malefic planet, if it rules a good house, can also bring fortune and blessings. Take for example, if you have Taurus on your ascendant, then Capricorn is the sign on the 9th house. Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn and therefore is also the 9th lord. The 9th lord represents fortune and luck. It can also represent a teacher, a guide, or even a benefactor, someone who brings you an opportunity to turn your life around for the better. If Saturn is the 9th lord and placed in your 5th house of children, then although it can indicate some challenges when trying to have children, but you may also meet a benefactor who may point you to a wonderful doctor that gets you into the best shape in terms of health for having children. So, in conclusion, a benefic planet may not always be good, and a malefic planet may not always be bad. There are many factors to consider when we are looking at a birth chart. If you enjoyed this video and find it helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to know more.